The following is a special Salem News Channel presentation, The Presidential Debate. Now, here's Stacey Washington.
Tonight, the first presidential debate in 2024. President Joe Biden is the presumptive Democratic nominee. President Donald Trump is the presumptive Republican nominee, and they're going head to head in two 2024 presidential debates. The first debate will take place tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in CNN's Atlanta studios, as Georgia is a critical battleground state. The second presidential debate will be hosted by ABC and is scheduled to take place on September 10th. And there are new rules, which include measures such as muted microphones to ensure each candidate's uninterrupted speaking time and the absence of a live audience. So what can we expect from tonight's debate? Joining me now is my first guest, Tommy Pigott, RNC Director of Strategic Communications. Tommy, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
So let's talk about this. No crosstalk, no immediate responses to things that are meant as a jab or what have you, and no audience. Where's the excitement, Tommy?
Well, I think the excitement is that President Trump is debating. I mean, if you look at polls, President Trump supporters are way more likely to watch the debate than Joe Biden supporters. And I think that tells you all you need to know about who's enthusiastic about this election. And on top of that, I think with these conditions, what's revealing is that everyone, even the mainstream media, is conceding that these conditions supposedly help Joe Biden, which is an implicit admission that Joe Biden needs help. Joe Biden needs every single advantage from the mainstream media that he can in order to stand up. But the problem is he won't stand up to President Trump. President Trump is a fighter. It doesn't matter if it's 3v1, 4v1, 5v1, 1,000 to 1. President Trump will win this debate because he's the better messenger and he's the better candidate. So we couldn't be more pumped for this debate. President Trump said anytime, anywhere. This is the first of these debates to happen, and we're confident President Trump will win this debate.
So I actually don't have a lot of doubt about the appearance of the debate, that it will appear that Joe Biden is being helped by the moderators. They can't help themselves. They know he needs help, but beyond their knowledge of his mental acuity and those attendant realities, they actually want to help him because they are Democrats, and so they cannot resist, which is why we need debates that have independent moderators. We have to start looking at that in future election cycles, having the Republican candidate stand before a moderator who doesn't hate him. Is there a chance that could happen, Tommy?
And look, we're committed to free and fair debates. We're committed to transparent processes. We're making sure that President Trump can get his message out to the American people. But what happened here, if you remember, is that President Trump called the bluff of Joe Biden and his campaign. Joe Biden agreed to debates by accident on the Howard Stern show. That's what happened with these debates. So Joe Biden and his campaign are panicking about these debates. That's why they've hunkered down in a basement for about 6 days trying to prepare Joe Biden for this. The problem is Joe Biden has no record. And I think one of the points to really make sure we're emphasizing here is that the mainstream media will try to say that if Joe Biden successfully stands on a stage for 90 minutes without fainting, that somehow he's won this debate. That's not what the American people want to see. The American people need to see Joe Biden defending his record. And the problem Joe Biden has is reality. His record is indefensible. So not only is President Trump the better messenger, not only is there more enthusiasm behind President Trump has the record to back it up on inflation, foreign policy, the economy, the border. And President Trump is going to bring that message for a more prosperous, a wealthier, a safer, and a more secure country and world to that debate stage and make sure the American people see that vision to make America great again.
So I love that. And there is a lot of energy and enthusiasm surrounding the president's campaign. He's still turning out record numbers at rallies, even in the most unlikely of places like, New Jersey, the Bronx in New York. There are places where you would expect a Republican could not turn out more than 100 or so people, yet he's consistently able to do that. And he's turned out a record number of new donors to the GOP platform when read, which means there is still growing enthusiasm about the campaign. Well, let's talk about one of the tougher issues that I'm hoping will be brought up tonight by these moderators, and that is the persistent prevalence of news stories every week now for the past 6 weeks. We've seen one or two news stories about young women and children being kidnapped or otherwise unlawfully detained, raped, and then tortured and murdered, and bodies disposed of in the most brutal ways. And this is happening in broad daylight in some of the Democrat jurisdictions across the country. Do you expect Dana Bash or Jake Tapper to actually approach that issue tonight?
Well, I know that this is a high priority for President Trump. I hope they do raise this issue because it is such an important one, especially since all these heinous crimes that we're seeing would be preventable if Joe Biden didn't purposefully invite the invasion of our border. This was by design by Joe Biden. And all of these crimes we're seeing would have not happened if Joe Biden had actually enforced the law and kept President Trump's policies in place. So this is a priority for President Trump. This is a priority for the American people. The American people deserve to have a secure border. They deserve to have safe streets. And what we're seeing with these heinous examples of migrant crime, what we're seeing with vicious gangs having a foothold in the United States for the first time ever from places like Venezuela because of this border crisis, what we're seeing are terrorist suspects being found after being released into the country and having lived in the United States for months because of Joe Biden's policies. All of these horrendous, horrific examples we're seeing would never have happened if Joe Biden had not reversed President Trump's border policies. This invasion was by design. Joe Biden's policies created it, and we need President Trump to secure the border and make sure we get back to having a secure border like we had under his administration.
I agree. And I think the American people are going to be looking for the topics covered tonight. They're aware that the candidates actually don't have any influence on that. Oh, wait. During one of the most consequential debates between President Trump, who was then a candidate, and then candidate Hillary Clinton, we later found out that she had the questions beforehand. I'm sorry to have to raise this topic because it's an accusation of dishonesty, but if it happened before, it could happen again. Tommy, President Trump might be walking into a situation tonight where he doesn't have the questions and President Biden has them beforehand.
Well, President Trump doesn't need the questions beforehand because he has the record to back it up. Joe Biden might, but even if he tries to spin, the problem he said, like I said before, is reality. And Americans see that reality every single time they turn on the news, every single time they go to a grocery store or a gas station. The American people see the reality of Joe Biden's failed policies. President Trump has the record to back up what he's saying, his message to make America great again. Joe Biden does not have that record. And one of the things I can guarantee you is that here at the RNC and Trump campaign, our world-class digital operation will be making sure we hold not just Joe Biden, but CNN accountable as well. We're going to be keeping track of what questions are asked, how much time they get to speak. We're going to be doing our level best to make sure that we hold them accountable and get the facts to the American people. We saw a recent post from a CNN fact checker saying they're going to have a ton of fact checkers out for this debate. We're not going to trust those because CNN does not push fact checks. They push misinformation checks. We're going to be fact checking them, making sure the real facts get out there, making sure we hold Joe Biden and CNN accountable.
I love it that you segued into my next question for me. And so I have a follow up, Tommy, on the fact checking. The true fact checkers of the internet are actually the internet. It's the memesters and individuals who keep prodigious records of files and images of the things that are most often lied about. I'm expecting that along with the fact checking of the RNC, you're going to have some assistance from meme lords who will be putting out original postings with the truth. With those two things coupled together, it should be a fascinating night tonight. Looking ahead, and my open, I mentioned that there is a second debate planned, and President Biden and former President Trump will be facing up again in a head-to-head matchup. Only this time, they will have both been nominated by their parties. And there's some talk about, both conventions and what we expect to see. Set the table for us. The RNC is meeting pretty soon for the Republican National Convention, and it's going to be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Beautiful location, lots of things to look forward to there. Tell us more.
Well, we couldn't be more excited. It's going to be a world-class event with world-class speakers, world-class discussions of policy. The stage design is absolutely incredible in terms of what the convention has. And there's going to be a whole host of events around the convention itself. It's going to be really close to a week-long event in celebration of what America should be and what America can be with Republican leadership. We're going to see that contrast between Joe Biden and President Trump's agenda of success versus Joe Biden's failures. We're going to see success stories of Republicans across the country, because one of the great things about being a Republican is that our policies work. So we have success stories in every single state across the country. We have success stories in the House and the Senate, governors across the board, because our policies are common sense. And that's the common sense that Americans want to see back in the White House. The problem with Democrats, and we're going to see this at their own convention, they're a divided party. They're continually attacking each other, and all of their policies fail. All of their policies, whenever they're tried, are not successful. Just look at California, for example, where more people are leaving California than they have U-Haul trucks to accommodate the number of people leaving California. And we're seeing those people move to Republican states. So we're going to see that contrast between President Trump and Joe Biden, President Trump's Make America Great Again vision, and then those success stories of Republicans across the country contrasted with those Democrat failures, which again, fail every single time they're tried in every single place.
And so it's an interesting contrast. The states with fantastic weather like California, why would anyone ever leave there? But people are driven to leave a state and a community where their family has been for generations because they can't afford the taxes. They can't have refrigerated food for longer than a day or two because of rolling blackouts. And of course, there are the policies, the forced and mandated policies from top-down government. And so as we're closing out here, tonight is the debate. Tonight, we expect to see President Trump take the stage, and for the first time, he'll stand on the same area and space as the current president of the United States, and people will compare the two men, not just on their policies and their previous accomplishments, but on the way they look standing next to each other. It's a huge part of the debate, and I think that the Biden campaign is intensely aware of that. They're concerned about how President Biden will appear standing next to President Trump, who seems to be aging in reverse. Tommy, tell us where you'd like people to go to get more information in preparation for tonight's debate.
Or they can go to donaldjtrump.com, where we have all this information and more. They can go to bidenfactcheck.com to make sure they get all those fact checks in real time. And I'm happy you mentioned the contrast in terms of how the candidates look and present themselves. We've been promised a quote unquote physical surprise from Joe Biden from his campaign, which I have no idea what that could be. I'm concerned about it. We'll have to see exactly what they do. But again, it's not just standing on that stage for 90 minutes. Biden has to defend his record, and his record is indefensible. So donaldjtrump.com, GOP.com, and bidenfactcheck.com.
bidenfactcheck.com. I will have that tab open on my laptop tonight as I cover the debate. Thank you so much, Tommy Pigott, for joining me from the Republican National Committee.
Thank you for having me on.
All right, we'll talk again soon. And coming up after this SNC fast break, young voters are critical of Biden's support for Israel. Could this affect the outcome of the election? Gerard Filitti is from the Lawfare Project. He's senior counsel there, and he'll join me next to discuss. You're watching Salem News Channel's Presidential Debate Special. Stay with us.
You're watching continuous coverage of the presidential debate on Salem News Channel.